Yo, what's up? My name is Legendary Luke and I hope you are having a great day. You probably clicked on this video because you want to get better aim, and you are in the right place. In today's video, I'm going over 7 things which you need to be doing inside of Apex Legends to get good aim. And if you're not doing these things, is probably the reason for your mediocre, inconsistent aim. I'm going to start with the easier, simpler fixes first, and slowly progress into the more complicated, intricate fixes, which will help anyone regardless of skill level. So the first simple fix for someone with bad aim is to raise your FOV. FOV stands for field of view, and it dictates how much of the surrounding area you can see. The problem is that the game default is set to 70, which is very low. Instead, it should be raised to somewhere from the 90 to 110 range. I personally play on the max 110. The reason is that raising FOV will help a lot for close range engagements. Up close, it will slow down your target and make hitting shots easier, whereas playing on a low FOV will do quite the opposite. Enemies will feel like they're flying in and out of your screen and will just make it a lot more chaotic and harder to hit shots up close. Another bonus of raising FOV, which is non-aim related, is that it will help make the movement in the game feel faster and crisper. So I would definitely recommend experimenting with an FOV in the 90 to 110 range, and it could be the solution to your aiming troubles. The second problem, which a lot of people have that leads to bad aim, is that they look at where they are aiming, not at their crosshair. Some people naturally do not do this, but others are not as fortunate. If you have a hard time with tracking enemies, this could be you. The rule is you never want to be looking at your crosshair. At all times, you want to be looking at the target you are shooting at. Looking at the crosshair while aiming will absolutely kill your aim. Instead, your hands will naturally make the target, what your eyes are looking at, the center of the screen. This will also allow you to build stronger and better muscle memory, which will lead to faster improvement. Whereas looking at the crosshair doesn't allow you to develop as good muscle memory and hurts your aim in the process. The third thing, which we all have been guilty of before, is not hip firing enough. It is a very common mistake among Apex Legends players to ADS at close ranges when we should be hip firing. The big misconception here is that hip firing decreases accuracy, which is true at certain distances but not at close ranges. There's no hard and fast rule for when you should be hip firing, but if you're looking for a number, it's usually good to hip fire at distances of 10 meters or closer. Of course, hip firing at close ranges also leads for increased mobility, which in turn leads to taking less damage. If you are pretty consistently losing your 1v1s, then I would definitely look out for a lack of hip firing when you play, and that could be the problem. If you are someone who is taken off guard or misses opening shots, then this next tip goes out to you, and that is having the correct crosshair placement. When I say crosshair placement, I'm referring to the crosshair and where it is located at all times. Most of us have a natural habit of looking down at the floor when we're just running around, looting, or pretty much doing anything other than shooting. And this is a habit you want to get rid of because it will hurt your aim and reaction time. The habit you do want to be getting yourself into is always keeping your crosshair at around the height of where an enemy's head would be or a little bit lower. You might see why this is beneficial because if you already have your crosshair up and ready to shoot, it will reduce the time and increase the accuracy of when you do shoot. I would definitely recommend spending time building this important habit because it will help your reaction time and those initial shots. The fifth thing is referred to as tension or stress aiming. This is something that everyone struggles with, however some of us more than others. It could be your problem if you find yourself repeatedly throwing clutches, or your aim suddenly goes out the window when you're in a 1v1 or intense situation. Most people don't know this, but they actually hold their breath while aiming, and I would bet you might too. However, relaxing and playing calmly is one of the most important things you can do. Whether you're on PC or controller, mouse and controller tensing and stressing ruins your aim and hand muscles. The biggest thing that you can do for yourself is to make sure you're breathing at all times. The moment you start holding your breath in a 1v1 or an intense situation is the moment you lose. Just practice regulating your breathing and taking deep breaths even while you're shooting your gun. For a long time, I didn't realize I was holding my breath every time I shot, and when I fixed it and did start breathing, my aim got drastically better. Something else that can help with tension and just calmness in the game in general is realizing that the outcome does not matter. Whether you win or whether you lose really does not matter. The goal is just to continue improving, which you can do just as much from a loss as you can from a win. The sixth thing you need to be doing for good and consistent aim is warming up and warming up correctly. In this part of the video, I'm going to walk you through how warm-up should go. It shouldn't just be one clipping dummies the whole time. I'm going to start off by saying that everyone needs to warm up. It's very important for consistency and developing necessary skills like recoil control. If you find that you struggle with recoil control, or some days your aim is just good and other days it's bad, developing a good warm-up routine will likely fix your problems. The very first thing you want to do when you get on the game is to load into the firing range. From there, pick up your go-to loadout, the one that you use the most and try to get in games. Use no attachments on these guns. Mastering the gun without attachments means it will just make it easier when you do have attachments. Practice shooting dummies while strafing. In the long run, this will help with recoil control and strafing while shooting, which are two necessary skills to be good at Apex Legends. Practice simply moving side to side and adjusting for your strafe. This is called counter strafing, and it is a skill you can master in the firing range and bring to the game, which will make you that much more deadly on the battlefield. If you're someone who struggles with controlling recoil, turn on impact marks in the settings. That way, if you ever want to know a recoil pattern for a specific gun, you can shoot it against the wall and memorize its pattern. Every warm-up session in the firing range should take about 5 minutes. You can add on to that with aim trainers or other things, but I'm not going to cover that in this video because I think it deserves a separate video of its own. About every minute in the firing range, you should switch weapons randomly, even to something that you normally wouldn't pick up in the game. This will get you used to all of the guns in Apex Legends, and in game you will be able to use any gun you want, control it, and know its recoil. It's pretty important, especially if you never know what weapon you're going to get off drop. A little exercise I usually do every day when I'm in the firing range to improve aim is to track the dummy's head without shooting. This is like a little mini tracking exercise while simultaneously getting you used to strafing and tracking at the same time. Throughout your warm-up time, you can also be practicing additional movement. This would include things like wall jumps, zipline jumps, super glides, bunny hopping. You can practice any movement you want to be able to use in-game or just a cool move you want to know how to do. Simply through warming up every single time you get on, you will develop recoil control, strafing abilities, tracking abilities, and movement, while meanwhile getting a necessary warm-up that will make your aim that much more consistent in-game. The seventh thing, which may result in bad aim, is inconsistencies in how you set up to play the game. This could be your problem if you do everything else I mentioned in this video. You play a lot, but your aim is still sometimes bad or unreliable. So what I mean by inconsistencies in how you set up to play the game, I am mainly referring to things like mouse grip, posture, how close your chair is to your desk, the angle of your keyboard, etc. These are things that are in the real world but have a massive effect on the game whether we realize it or not. Every time you sit down at your desk to play any FPS game, everything I mentioned before should be the exact same, or as close to it as possible. All of it's important, however the big thing that really throws off aim is mouse grip. It is natural to have a tendency to grip the mouse slightly different every time, and some days even kind of vastly different. Some of us are claw grips, some of us have flat grips, and there are many with their own unique style. However, that's not what matters. What matters is that it is the same every time. The goal is having a familiar way of holding your mouse or controller in a way that you can replicate and do the exact same every single time. That means if you're like me and when you hold a mouse, your pinky finger is curled and in the middle on the side of the mouse, every time you hold a mouse, your pinky finger should be on the side, middle, and curled. And it should be the same for all of your fingers and pretty much everything else in your setup. Remember that very small adjustments in the real world have big effect on aim. Say one day your thumb is touching the mouse pad a little bit more than it normally does. It may not be by much, but that little bit of thumb touching the mouse pad more than it normally does will cause you to under aim and miss more shots than you normally do. It will obviously throw off your muscle memory, and in addition will make it harder to build more because now your body is used to under aiming, so it compensates. And now the next time you get on the game and hold the mouse differently, you're over aiming because the muscle memory you built is different. So next time you get on to play, notice how you hold the mouse, how you sit down, your posture, everything. Realize if that is what you want, and then if it is, replicate it every time you sit down. Once you're mindful of it, it will become a lot easier and more of a habit than anything else. There's a guy called Ron Rambo Kim on YouTube who was a former professional and is now an aim coach who talks a lot about this, and if you're still curious, I would highly recommend you check his channel out. I'll leave a link in the description. As I said before, aim is the most important skill in Apex, and it is one that you want to be proficient in and have nothing hold you back. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. Thank you for watching.